Hello, class, again. This one is going to look at secularisation. So I'm just going to talk through it briefly first. And just before we start, remember that the definition of secularisation that you want to use is a decline in the influence of religion rather than anything more limited, like attendance. We're going to look at all the measures individually. There are various different questions you could get on this. You could get a 10 marker saying Hello. Okay. You could get a 10 marker simply asking you to explain two features of secularisation or two reasons that secularisation isn't occurring. I'm trying to think what other 10 markers you get. I mean, more typically an essay for 20 marks would either be a simple debate, or not that simple, but a debate between is secularisation occurring or is secularisation occurring? And you'll remember secularisation or re-enchantment is a return to religiosity as opposed to a decline in its influence. So a sort of standard 20 marker will just say something like assess the view that secularisation is occurring, or assess the view that there is increased religiosity. The other thing you want to really be aware of is that you need to talk quite separately about different areas of the world. So clearly what is happening in the modern West religiously, and for that I particularly mean Europe, maybe Australasia, and to some extent America, that picture is extremely different to other bits of the world, such as the Middle East, Africa. There are. I'm trying to think of other bits. South Asia, certainly, where religion is still massively influential. So certainly you can't argue that secularisation is occurring globally. You need to be specific about where you're talking about. You could also get 20 markers that are slightly more tricky, that might ask you to assess whether secularisation is occurring based on something specific, such as new religious movements or fundamentalism or rationalisation. So be ready for that as well. But we'll go through essays on all of them in these revision sessions. So firstly, just to run through what the separate measures of secularisation are, of a declining influence in religiosity. So I'm hoping you've got these in your revision pack. But for those of you who might be listening who don't, I'll just go through them list-like to start with. So the first measure we're going to look at is statistics. Is secularisation occurring if we simply use statistics as evidence? And most of those statistics are going to be based around church attendance. Okay, so that's one thing we'll look at. Is a decline in church attendance evidence of secularisation? Is the first thing we're going to look at. Then we'll look at the second measure, which is going to be disengagement, we'll look at next. So disengagement, has religion separated from the state, from politics, essentially? Now, if it has separated, disengagement has occurred. If religion is still very influential within the state and politics, disengagement has not occurred, and therefore secularisation has not occurred. So firstly, we've got attendance figures, disengagement. The third one we'll look at is, what should we go to next? Pluralism. So religious pluralism at its most simple is simply more than one religion, a plurality of religions. So we're going to look at, is evidence of more religions, particularly in the modern West, evidence of an increase in religiosity or of secularisation occurring? So we'll look at pluralism. The next measure is going to be rationalisation. So put simply, rationalisation is a turn towards science and away from religion as an explanation for everything on the earth, beyond the earth, etc. So has the fact we've now become increasingly rational, increasing levels of technology and understanding and a demand for evidence, has that led us away from religiosity or not? Or, in fact, can you be devoutly religious and a believer in science? Okay, so we'll look at that. We'll then look at where should we go to? Sorry, I'm trying to think of the dog running around my legs. So we've done, let me run through them again as a revision tool, not because I'm scrabbling around trying to remember what to go to next. So we've looked at attendance. I'm going to stop and come back. I'll speak again. Oh, I know. Structural differentiation, that's the last one. Structural differentiation, what a beautifully taught lesson this is. Right, structural differentiation. So that is, you may remember from family and from religion, when one institution, such as family or religion, used to be multifunctional, certainly before the Industrial Revolution. So has there been a decline in the influence of religion because there's been a decline in the functions of religion? So in the past, certainly before the Industrial Revolution, it would have been the only place children were schooled for a long time. It would have looked after the sick, housed the poor. It was multifunctioning. Now you could argue that the state or private providers do most of those tasks, different structures. So has structural differentiation led to a decline in the influence of religion? So let's run through those one more time, as I've completely muddled you up possibly. So measures of secularisation we're going to look at. Attendance figures or statistics, disengagement, pluralism, rationalisation and structural differentiation. So they're the 5 that we're going to spend the most time on, looking at evidence for and against secularisation. So what would be a great idea before I go on is if you make sure that you've read through at least your revision pack on that and possibly your notes, and then we'll look at that in more detail and then do some essay plans. Okay, well done folks, bye.